How's it going, Andrew?
What's up, Matt?
Same old, still unpacking.
I believe it. I think I'm still unpacking. It's been months. It just never ends. There's just always more stuff, I should say.
Yeah, it's always something. Yeah, it's all right. We don't drop many on the show, so.
How many swears do you get to stay PG? Is it 2?
PG-13, you get 1 F-bomb.
Oh, what's an S-bomb? Is an S-bomb a 0.5 so you can get 2?
I don't know. I never really looked at what the rules are for MPAA ratings when it comes to that.
Well, we're keeping this podcast PG-13 so far, so doing good.
Yeah, well,
choose when to use your F-bomb wisely.
That's always, that's one of the fun ones that you see go around every now and then about like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like if you could have 1 F-bomb in Star Wars, where would you put it?
I would put it when the dude goes, I can't shake him, and his ship gets blown up. Just say it there. I think that's where I put it.
That's a great spot for one. I always wanted to go with Luke. I am your father, and then him just go, fuck.
That's a good spot. Oh, man. So what else has been going on?
Oh, not much. Had to get a new furnace put into the new house already. Been in there a whole whopping 2 weeks.
I know. I still have to do the same thing, but I put it off till next season. Well, technically, it was the
air conditioner.
Yeah, the air conditioner. Yeah. So that's good. I can bide time with that.
That's a little less critical. Furnace in the middle of November, on the other hand.
Furnace is a Wisconsin required amenity. Like, you can't just be like, yeah, unless you have like some sort of internal like fire heating system or something.
Right. And then I've discovered that it's really enjoyable to deal with home warranty companies. So we'll see how the rest of this adventure goes.
Isn't it like so fun that when you get insurance and warranty stuff, that the whole goal of them is to not pay you? So the whole time you're trying to get paid, their whole goal is always like, thank you for paying extra for this. We're going to try not to give you any money though.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the seller offered it with the purchase of my home, which is why I have it. I actually had a good experience with it on the first house I bought, because same situation, the sellers were offering a 1-year home warranty on the last house, and, but this experience isn't going quite as well so far, so we'll see how it plays out, but definitely, And then the closing on my old house got delayed by a week, so, that's enjoyable as well, and we're going to hope that date holds true, because otherwise there's going to be significant repercussions for the buyer.
God, it's just so fun buying and selling houses.
Yeah, man. I don't want to do it again for about another 15 to 20 years. And then when I do it again, I never want to do it again after that.
Yeah, I think you should max move houses like 3 times max in your life. Any more than that, and you're just like a masochist. It's too much. It's such a pain in the butt.
It's been a stressful process for like 6 weeks now. I think I've been at this, between purging, packing, painting, and everything, and getting the old house in order for in the market, and then closing on the new one and trying to sell the old one. And then, once spring rolls around, I'm just painting the new one. And yeah,
I feel like you've been talking about this forever. It feels like it's been 6 years.
It's been a really long, drawn out process, and so much stuff has happened during it. It's just been weird, but that's my luck. I never expect anything to go smoothly.
Yeah, it just like downpours on you with like back-to-back things.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So maybe we should get this podcast kicked off, and that's enough of me complaining.
All right, fair enough. You could have used your F-bomb there, I guess, but we'll move on from that.
Loosen up your ties and roll up your sleeves. It's time for Fellowship with Matt and Andrew. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin or any other Grand Lodge or any appended body.
I'll save that F-bomb for if anything else goes wrong with the sale of my old house.
Mid-podcast. You get a text message. But yeah, today we were going to talk about the importance of mentoring and posting work.
Ooh.
Which is something that I think a lot of Masons will relate to. I think that both are very important. And I think both are great ways that if your lodge is trying to find ways to improve or to, tighten up their I don't want to say offering, but you know what I mean? Like parts of their culture, having a strong mentorship program is a great thing. Hold on, I'm going to go deal with this dog who's digging a mouse out or something. I'll be right back. Hold on. All right, the dog has been wrestled away. Well, wrestled next to Matt for right now. But I think
you can hang out with me.
And so to prepare for this episode, I was reading a couple of articles about mentorship and why it's so important. And there's one that I quickly wanted to read the header from that I saw from the Grand Lodge of Ohio had a nice bit on their page. And it says, what is a Masonic mentor? Just as someone may look for a mentor in their professional careers, their hobbies, or in living an impactful life, a lodge mentor instills the same passion for bettering one's life through the craft. A mentor is more than just a teacher. They are a coach, a confidant, and a friend. While a mentor may serve as a guide and helping hand during the beginning of the new member's journey, that role will inevitably evolve.
Ooh, that was well put.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, good job, Ohio. You guys did a good job on that. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Like, I've always tried to say that the mentorship journey is so important because, especially when I was going into the craft with my mentor, Grant, it was not only just preparing you for the posting work and to help you learn like some of like the in Wisconsin we have a workbook we have to go through, and there's some memorized portions as well. It's not only doing all that, it's like your first friend in person. You can go to events and be like, hey man, what's happening here? Like, you can ask questions and you can build relationships with.
Well, there's that aspect to it, and it should also be the beginning of the embodiment of the principles of Freemasonry and a slightly deeper explanation of what you're looking at, more so than just memorizing it. But yeah, you do develop a very special relationship with your mentor when it's done well. Jason was my primary mentor, and him and I have always been close since, so... He was also my senior deacon, so that helps.
Yeah, right, exactly. Well, and the thing is, when you think about mentorship, like there's our modern version of it, but it also like harkens back to the operative craft too, where you would be assigned a master to be your trainer, and you would learn under a mentor before you could become a fellow craft or do your master's work or any of that good stuff. So it's kind of like as free and accepted Masons, as speculative Masons, we maintain that tradition, but it serves a different function, but it still kind of is within the same vibe.
Right. And I think we a lot of times find ourselves falling in the trap of thinking about our mentors as, the person that helped you learn your obligations and everything else. And we forget that there are various mentors that you're going to encounter during your Masonic career. The same person that mentored you to, memorize the things you had to memorize and start learning about the craft may not be the same person who you consider your mentor when it comes to leadership or administration or, how to actually do like degree work and floor work and stuff like that. Like you can have a lot of different mentors throughout your time as a Mason.
Yep, and it's just that the first mentor is just it's just the first one that kind of leads you in the door so that you can then have opportunity to continue, meeting people within the craft for sure. And it's interesting because like you were saying, it's not only about who prepared you for examination, which is important, like that's an important relationship, but it's also your first opportunity to learn how to work with a mentor, how to ask questions, how to seek out information. It's really your first step in learning how to use the opportunities the craft provides you, which is in Masons.
Right. And I think one of the key critical things you have to learn there is it's not a one-way street. And as that relationship develops, it becomes more conversational, right? But in the beginning, it might just be your mentor explaining a lot of stuff to you till you get comfortable starting to ask a couple questions. And then eventually it builds into this thing where it's just, it should be a back and forth all the time and not a one-sided conversation. And it should be the same like when it comes to like reaching out to each other. Like the mentor should be reaching out to the mentee and the mentee should be reaching out to the mentor. And, it should just be a very good relationship where, you get along and you feel comfortable reaching out to each other and asking questions, and knowing that your mentor will hopefully get you the right answer.
Yep. And a good mentor is like your accountability buddy. And it works well because like mentor, especially when it comes to preparing for posting, is supposed to be making sure that you have someone who's basically keeping tabs, that you're making good progress, but also not burning them out. Finding out that balance to say like, hey, we can take this however you want, but I want to make sure we're always still in communication and that we're working and moving forward together at whatever pace that needs to be. And I think that's really important because if you give it to a candidate or a new brother, right, and just say, hey, this is the objective, it can be hard because someone might burn themselves out, might get very confused, and might not really actually learn what they should learn before, moving on to the next degree. And it's the mentor's job to make sure that they do get a chance to get those questions answered and really learn as they go, but also to make sure that they're doing it at an appropriate pace and that they're actually not just saying like, yeah, I'm just going to rush through this. They're like, no, you need to do this when I'm satisfied that you've done enough and that you've learned enough, we can move you to the next degree. But it's nice to have someone who has a pulse. And I don't know about you, but I learned so much being a mentor as well as when I was a mentee. So It is really good for the brethren to do mentorship because you learn so much when someone asks you questions you never looked up before.
Right. There's definitely, I'm going to touch back on one earlier point too. If I can remember what I was going to say now. I was going to just tack on there that your mentor should also be like your biggest cheerleader, your biggest confidence booster when it comes to like, yeah, you know this, you got this, you can do this, that kind of stuff. Your mentor should be that person that's in your corner through it too. But the other part, I love having new guys be mentors because at a time where you're like, yeah, I learned everything, I got through it. It's like, okay, well, if you know it well enough, now teach it.
Yep. It's also a good way to get new brethren involved when they're just new. You don't want to necessarily put them in an officer position. You're like, hey, but here's a job that can be really rewarding and it will help you build your foundation.
Right. Well, and just by the very nature of being a mentor and getting questions that you may not know the answer to, you're now going to learn the answer to those questions as well when you have to go in search of those answers. So you get to learn right along with your mentee.
Yep. And I think when it comes to these types of like programs, I think using having individual mentors, so we have this year been using our counselor who's been taking on a handful of brothers at a time, which is great. And he's doing a great job.
Phenomenal job.
But I am still preferential to trying to assign some of the new brothers so that each person has a single mentee-mentor relationship. There's something about that too that I think creates a bond because they both are doing it together. Whereas if you have one person who's doing mentorship for everyone, it's a little bit distilled, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I kind of like that personal touch when you can get like a one-on-one mentorship dealio.
I would agree when it's possible. Sometimes that's not always feasible to pull off, or sometimes the person who's kind of taking the lead on that position is just like, nope, I got this,
which is fine.
Which is fine. And, we always make a point of letting all of our new guys know they can reach out to any of us. If scheduling's difficult, we can switch it up. It's not a problem.
Yeah. Mentorship does truly fall on the entire lodge. Even if it is being led by an individual, it is the lodge's job, all of its members, to make sure that these brothers are getting good mentorship, and even if that is multiple people, that's totally fine. And that's a great way to get to know people too.
Well, and it just speaks to the strength of the lodge, right? You should always be able to approach any master mason and, ask them some questions, and if they don't know the answer, they can definitely find you the answer.
Yeah, the best response isn't, I don't know. The best response is, I don't know, but I will find out and report back to you.
Right. Yep. But every man in that room has the potential to be a mentor to every single other person in that room at some point.
Sure, I agree. So to shift us now to the other end of the spectrum, posting, the importance of posting. So
that word, that scary, scary word.
So posting is something that's really I'm passionate about because it's my understanding that in our jurisdiction, it used to be more rigorous. Mm-hmm. And I've seen old records of what it looked like, and it definitely was harder. And it always seems like I keep hearing online and within certain jurisdictions, they keep trying to make it easier and easier. And that always makes me upset because I think it's supposed to be hard. Obviously, there should be a good balance, right? Be reasonable. But I think that people have started to treat posting like an annoying bureaucratic paperwork step or something. You know what I mean? Something on the way that slows down the process of becoming a master mason when it's really not. Because I think that posting is like really important because we don't, as speculative masons, have some sort of work we have to prove, right? We need to find a way to give ourselves a challenge that's hard but achievable and achieve it to not only gain a bigger knowledge of the craft, but to also prove to ourselves that there is work that can be done that you might find hard through the support of your mentors and your brothers.
Right. I would agree with you. I think posting is extraordinarily important. And this is coming from someone who, going into Freemasonry, after I got initiated, I mentioned to my wife that there was memory work involved, and I got laughed at.
Yeah, right.
You'll never be able to do that. You can't remember what happened 5 minutes ago. And now it's like, hey, wait a minute, how come you remember all that, but you can't remember what happened 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, like selective hearing.
Don't question it. Don't question it. It's Masonry. My brain is specially tied into being able to memorize and remember Masonic things.
Yep.
Love you, Olivia. But no, seriously, she did. She told me that I'd never, and she won't deny it. She told me I'd never be able to do that. And, I had questioned whether or not I'd be able to do it myself. So, we hear stories of a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm really bad at memorization. I can't do that, blah, blah, blah. If you want something bad enough, you put in the time and the effort to get there, and eventually you will. And the feeling, the self-pride that you have afterwards, after accomplishing it, and just that getting that W under your belt just makes it easier and easier to keep wanting to do it.
And it's a good example of how you can use your lodge to accomplish something that you never thought you could do. And this is not only, it can be a challenge for people who have issues with public speaking. This is their first chance to learn to say, here in these walls with my brethren, I will find my voice.
Right.
You know what I mean? I will challenge myself to find a voice so that I can be a productive member of this lodge. It's also it creates I feel like a culture of lifelong learning. Because it says hey, right at the front door, I'm going to give you a challenge. I want you to study and learn about Masonic history, about our symbolism, and then I want you to record some of it into your mind so it can be a permanent part of you that you have memorized within you. And I think that that's a really good foundation to start on because it shows hey, you can learn things and you can learn them so well you can memorize them if you would like. But it's important because it not only, I think, deepens their understanding, and I would say that it should be more rigorous and probably take longer, in my personal opinion, so that they have time to really absorb it. But even at its current state, it's still a good first step to building that information inside you.
I think we're at a good middle ground here in Wisconsin where it's achievable without being super daunting. You have to keep people's confidence up to a certain extent, and if you give them way too daunting of a task, they're just going to be like, nope, not even think about it. But the beautiful thing about the way it works is it just builds. So once you lay that foundation, it's easier to just keep going with it, and I never thought I would have been able to confer degrees and open and close a lodge and everything else like I'm doing these days. When I came in,
I guess, well, I'll disagree with you actually on this point. I think that it should not be about just building confidence. I think that should come with a harder challenge. But the only way that I would have it be more difficult is if our lodges allowed us to open an EA or an FC for business, because then if it's slowed down to be more difficult, it doesn't leave them hanging out in the lurch, right?
Right.
So I think based on the way we currently work in Wisconsin, the way the craft works in Wisconsin, I think it's an appropriate balance. But in a ideal world in Andrew's mind, in my own opinion, I would love it to be longer, more rigorous, and just a little more well-rounded at really making sure that there's no reason a Master Mason shouldn't be able to answer basic questions on the craft and its symbols. Basic questions, right? And I think that our posting just scratches the surface on that, and someone could really get away with not learning enough, whereas I would like to make it harder so that they actually have to learn a bunch. Force it into them.
You always want to force information on people.
I think that's important. I mean, it's important to the good of a Mason, and we rely on a Mason to do a lot on the back end, which is fair. I don't disagree that that's important too, but I think that we could make a more rigorous program on the front end too.
I see what you're saying. However, in a historic moment, because it doesn't happen often on this podcast, I completely disagree with you. Because right now, with the way our posting work is set up, it is at a point where someone who is really concerned about the memory work can still achieve it, and someone who is interested in learning more can still go and find more on their own. But it doesn't completely intimidate a new guy who's going, God, there's no way I could ever do this.
Well, I'm not saying that it has to be more rigorous, but meaning more difficult memory work. I'm saying it could add more requirements. Like, I would like you to do like a report. Like, I'd like a 3-page report on this. Here's a book. Just pick a topic within the history and write 3 pages on it. Like, I don't think that that's unreasonable. Yeah, but I mean, it's important. There's some jurisdictions that do have to write certain givebacks that are in writing too, and I think that's great. And I think that's a really good way to get people thinking and interacting with, our education systems and all the good stuff within it.
Maybe, but that's a very hesitant maybe, even out of my side of this, because I'm just like, that's what the research lodge is for. If you want to do that, right? Everybody's Freemasonry is their own, and everybody's going to embody and live Freemasonry and learn the principles and the symbolism and everything in their own way and on their own time. And, maybe that's just coming to lodge. Maybe that's never sitting in the officer line. Maybe that's going all the way through the officer line and learning everything there is to learn. And maybe it's becoming part of the research lodge and doing papers and stuff like that. But maybe for some guys it's just sitting on the sideline, not writing that paper, picking up what they pick up in conversation with other brothers. Everybody's Freemasonry is their own, and as long as they're a good brother and they're trying to make themselves better, I don't see forcing anything that would make them more uncomfortable than we already do with memory work on them.
But I mean, think about this. Then you're really giving them a sampling, right? They might be like, yep, I wrote... I did a little memory work. I wrote one small paper about my Masonic experience thus far. It doesn't have to be like, you have to read this whole book. It could just be like, hey, tell us what you've been thinking, right?
Something like that's more reasonable.
Yep. I mean, or you could say you can do a give back like this. You could make it very broad, right? You could say all these things, and that would be their sampling. Like, this is something you can do in Masonry, write papers. You can do ritual. You're already enjoying fellowship. You're getting involved in various charitable activities. And then when they become a Master Mason, they can choose how to live their Masonic life.
Something more simple like that, yeah. Like write about your own Masonic experience thus far. That I could probably get behind.
I think that'd be cool.
I think it would actually be kind of fun to have somebody do that after they're entered apprentice, and then keep it in the archives. And if 10 years down the road, when they're, a worshipful brother or, a district deputy or something, they can pull that out and go, man, I was an idiot back then.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, I guess I would also say, like, what would you say about trying to make the examination any easier than it is now?
Oh, no.
I don't think it's very hard right now.
No.
I think it's just, I would call it not hard, I would call it challenging.
And I think we're like at that perfect, like, you touch the bath water temperature and you're like, oh, yeah. This is good. This is perfect.
Yeah, I think it is a decent mix, especially, like I said, for the fact that we can't have our entered apprentice or fellow crafts in meetings. We can't really leave them for 6 months working on something. Like, they're going to lose interest because they're kind of being held outside.
I don't know if it still is, but I thought at some point I had met somebody from California who told me you have to, it's a year. You have to stay in each degree for a year. And I was just like, whew.
I think that in the Grand Lodge of England, it's even longer.
Oh, wow.
But in that time, they have more stuff that they fill in. Like, I want you to learn about, like, that's more like how I would like it, like almost unreasonably rigorous is what I've heard at least. I don't know. That's what the word on the street is, which I kind of like, because I think if you are able to slow roll a little bit, you can really find ways to make each degree more memorable. You can be like, you're in this stage. This is what I want you working on. This is this kind of stuff. Yeah, I want you to take small parts and degrees too in your current stuff. And like, you can really like do it long, but honestly, we don't have enough members to really let someone sit there for 4 years.
Well, let's put it this way. In some jurisdictions, you are required to learn a lecture as part of your posting.
Yeah, I've heard that. Holy moly.
Yeah. You want to talk about more rigorous.
Maybe that's the line. Maybe that's the line for me. That's pretty rigorous. Yeah, but I mean, so I think posting is really important. And even as current state, I do think it is, what was someone saying the other day? It's proof of commitment.
Yep.
They say before you're going to receive the highest degree, you need to prove some level of commitment to our principles and to being willing to grow and learn.
Right.
And I think that if you kind of shoo that out under the rug or kind of make it minimalized, you're going to wonder why you don't have as many committed members. And like if you said, if we have a very basic structure and someone goes, you know what, I can't do that, then I'm sorry, you're going to be an entered apprentice. Even though the thing is our system, there's easy ways to just work around it. But if that's too much, then what kind of brother would they have been anyways?
I mean, look at how we have it set up. And maybe this is the same in some jurisdictions, probably not the same in all jurisdictions, right? You could go to a daylight and then you only have to post your Master Mason. In my opinion, when you do that, you're kind of cheating yourself because you skip 2 building block steps and some of the initiatic experience.
For membership too.
Right, and opportunities.
Mentorship.
Mentorship and getting to know your brothers and various other things, right? We've had those conversations before. But we also have it set up where you could go through the daylight, be a Master Mason, and if you can't do your posting, you can't do your posting, but then you can't sit in a chair as an elected officer. So you could never be Worshipful Master of the Lodge, and you can't join any appendant bodies.
Yep, and then you say you
know,
should be able to do that much commitment, especially if you want to take on something that is an additional commitment.
Right.
Or being an elected official, a huge commitment, and you cannot commit to doing your posting. That's, in my opinion, unacceptable. And I think that when that happens, that's a failure of mentorship. Along with the failure of the individual, but really the mentor should have been the one that's making sure, like, hey, I know this is stressful. We're just going to keep chipping away at it. We'll do it one small step at a time. I don't care if it takes a year. We'll just keep going.
Well, and that's why I really like that we have it set up that way, right? If you got a guy who's just wants to be a sideliner or sit in a steward's chair for as long as he decides to, and he's just like, I just can't do the memory work. Okay, that's fine. We can still find stuff for you to do. You just can't do this or this. But for somebody that may be like, maybe one day it would be nice to be junior warden, it's a little nugget, like at the end of the trail, like, okay, well then I got to do this. And then maybe once they do that, they're like, oh, I can do a lot more than just this.
Yep. It also isn't bad that I think it's just 100% just to punish Shriners. Where they're like, oh, you thought you were going to join just become a Shriner? Well, you're going to be a Mason, god dang it, first. You're going to go do Mason stuff first, then you can run off to the Shrine. But you're going to do your posting, and then you can get in your little car and ride around.
Right. No, I think posting's important, and I think, to tie that back into one form of mentorship that we talked about, which is the counselor or whoever at your lodge or the entire lodge helping somebody get through this, it does give an avenue to begin to build those relationships. And, maybe it's week after week after week, you're seeing a couple different guys or whatever, you're working with these people, you're all studying together, and then all of a sudden, hey, you know what? You're all hanging out even when that's over.
Yep. And it really starts you off on a good foot, and it builds great bonds.
Like Worshipful Brother Cholka said when he was on the show, whatever episode that was, way back when, and he said that he actually felt like the Day of Light put more work on the lodge because now they had all that time that they had to make up for.
Yep, and when they're going to be trying to focus on the next thing, they then have to make sure they have to focus on
right.
this thing.
You have to now bring that brother into the fold. Whereas, if you get a guy going through the traditional route, you've had months, if not a year or more, to develop those relationships and bring him into the group and bring him into the fold and make him comfortable and make you guys comfortable with him and everything else. And everything's clicking on all cylinders by the time he's a master mason.
Yep. And here's something I was thinking about too. Do you think that if posting was designed in such a way, it could be a good method for examining a brother's strengths and weaknesses?
Yes.
You could see, okay, here's what he's really passionate about in the posting process. If you made it more of a sampling, like I messaged with, there's a couple of different things in it, right? Like, here's where his passions are. He doesn't love memorization work, but he really likes our history and stuff like that. Right. And you can kind of figure out like where he either needs to develop or where he can be put immediately into good use and stuff like that. And I think that you already do learn that a little bit just from going to each other's houses, building relationships. You start to see what they're about, what they like to do, what they don't like to do, and you can kind of figure out, what type of Masonic responsibilities they would be open to and how they can grow.
Agreed.
All right, so moral of the story. Make sure you have a mentorship program. It's paramount. It's the front door. It's make posting harder. I'm just kidding.
No.
Okay, take posting seriously.
Take posting seriously.
Fair enough.
It is not just an order of business that has to be taken care of. It is a serious affair, and it needs to be given I don't want to say reverence because that sounds weird.
Is of high importance and deep solemnity.
Yeah, there we go. That's a good way to put it. Where have I heard that before? No, that's actually a great way to put it. Like, it needs to be taken seriously. It's not just a box to be checked. It's a showing of commitment, like you said earlier, and it's an achievement that should be savored.
It should not only be savored, it's an opportunity. If you do very fast posting, you know how there's in our system, there's a book that has various information on the craft, on the symbols. There's a little open book test at the end. If you don't even glance at that and you skip it, you're missing the opportunity to have a good discussion and really a deep understanding. If you post them when the questions aren't very good, you can very easily humiliate the person who is embarrassed with their work, which isn't a great start.
Right.
And also, if you don't spend the time on all these things, it's like you get into it, you get out of it what you put into it. Like, we like to use that cliche, but that includes in posting, where it's like, if you really take the posting seriously and put time into it, it can be a really effective tool to really give a good experience to a brother to challenge themselves and rise above.
Well, and you're ingraining how you should act with other Masons and just in the community. You're ingraining, everything that Freemasonry stands for and what commitment you're making to your brothers at that point.
Mutual commitment. Yeah.
Right. And you're understanding, what commitment your brothers have to you. So it is, I think it's important to understand what's in there. And I mean, it's also important to understand what's in there because honestly, if you violate what's in there, then,
you could be in an oopsie.
Ignorance of the rules does not mean innocence from the rules, right?
Yep. Cool. Well, I mean, I think that's pretty good closing, and then we'll move on to news and events. All right, so what's been going on in Wisconsin? Got some fun news from Appleton. The Appleton Brethren have been volunteering with Habitat for Humanity.
Ooh.
3 members of the Appleton Lodge number 349 volunteered their time to help build a new home in Kaukauna. Did I pronounce that right?
No.
How do you say it?
Kaukauna, probably.
Kaukauna.
Spell it once for me.
Kaukauna.
Kaukauna. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be Kaukauna? Because they both.
I've always been told it's Kaukauna.
It's up in Kaukauna. Tweeted on October 11th.
I could be wrong. Feel free to email us at timeforfellowship@gmail.com if we just butchered the name of your town.
Kaukauna. The brethren in attendance were Brother Tim DeHart, who was the project coordinator for the lodge, along with their master, David Gerlach and past master Bill Romer, their secretary. So they had a bunch of guys in attendance building a house for those in need.
Right on.
Very, very cool.
I always wanted to do a Habitat for Humanity build.
Dude, I've been wanting to do that too. Put that on my list for my year.
Yeah.
That'd be a hard one. Hey,
Just
we got a lot
start
of builders.
loading up that list.
We got a lot of builders.
Start loading up that list now.
All right. And so then moving on to events. So let's see what's going on in this area of Wisconsin, around the state. So the big events going on, as we've mentioned in our last episode, is going to be the Festival of Trees.
Festival of Trees.
So if you're in the area of the Zor Shrine, they're going to be having theirs, which is in Sparta, from the 18th through the 23rd. So it's already started.
Oh.
And it'll be continuing through this weekend. It's a great thing. You can look at beautiful trees. They always have a nice setup. You can put in raffle tickets on the trees and win everything in the gifts underneath them.
Yep.
Speaking of Festival of Trees, the III Shrine will be having theirs, I believe it's next weekend.
It starts, I believe, the Saturday before Thanksgiving, so this upcoming Saturday, and runs all the way through till after Thanksgiving, I believe, but not on Thanksgiving Day.
Got it. So that's same vibe. It's at the beautiful III Shrine.
Yep.
It's a great event. I'm planning on going there, and they have an open bar. Cash bar.
Cash bar.
Cash bar.
Yeah, cash bar. Don't say they have an open bar. Oh, geez. Cash.
Yeah, I almost f***ed it up.
Oh, and he finds the spot for one.
PG-13.
I don't know if that was worth it, but
PG-13.
fair enough.
PG-13. So, anyways. Moving on. We have Prairie du Chien Lodge on the 20th, which will be, well, I guess this will be after that.
Yeah, this comes out the day after that one.
All right, I'll cut that.
Because that would be tomorrow.
Then today, on the 21st, we have Wacoma Lodge number 90 is doing their public installation of officers. It's going to be at 7 p.m. at Cokesville Masonic Center.
Ooh.
We'll just do one in
that must be the first installation of the season there, huh?
I think it is. So we'll save you guys because December is just all installations.
I got a couple of December events, though.
All right, toss them in.
All right. On December 7th, Waukesha Lodge will be having their breakfast with Santa from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Waukesha Lodge building. It's a $5 suggested donation, and there will also be a bake sale with holiday treats.
Ooh, yum.
And then, of course, there's our breakfast with Santa.
That's a good one, yeah.
On December 21st. I believe it also starts at 8 a.m. And yeah, so bring the kiddos out for that one as well.
Santa will be coming. There'll be lots of good food, and it's free and open to the public.
Anyone
you want to bring.
Anyone you want to bring.
Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you're following us on Facebook,
Instagram,
TikTok.
And you can email us at timeforfellowship@gmail.com. Everybody have a great one.
Timeforfellowship@gmail.com. Have a good one. Bye.